Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner Classics as Non-Classics. This is episode number 1329 and Doubleshot number 1223. I have two Marvel trades. The first one is the second of third volumes for this trade series. This other one is the last one, but not the last thing overall for the character. Okay? First up it is A-Force, Volume 1, Hypertime. Yes, this is technically the second volume because we had Volume 0, published part of the Secret Wars. Now we're into the ongoing series of A-Force. Yes, a series that was short-lived. You're probably thinking, why was the series short-lived? As far as I know, it was possibly canceled low sales, but how can people not buy a book basically featuring a lot of big-name characters? I mean, this lineup is smaller than the one they actually had in the previous A-Force volume, which was done by Marguerite Bennett and G. Willow Wilson. This one, G. Willow Wilson does come back as the writer for his ongoing series, but has Kelly Thompson as the co-writer of the book. Though after these set of issues, G. Willow Wilson leaves, and Kelly Thompson does the rest of the series by herself. Now, the lineup of this one is quite interesting, okay? The lineup is, and a lot of people are like, really? This is the lineup for this group? It's an all-female lineup, formed by Singularity. She's brought this group together, and she basically recruits Captain Marvel, Medusa, She-Hulk, Nico of the Runaways, and Dazzler. Yep, a quite interesting lineup, and by the way, their base is actually on the Alpha Flight space station, which is not a bad idea. Now, the reason why Singularity is here, this is, of course, from her perspective, just after the events of the previous volume, which, okay, I get the reason why G. Willow Wilson was brought in, probably as a transition writer, because she was busy with Miss Marvel, which her run lasted for a good 2 more years before she left, before it was relaunched under the title of Magnificent Miss Marvel, with Shemad Ahmed as the writer of the book. Though, I have heard that the reason why that she left Marvel was because, for one, she didn't have an exclusive contract with Marvel, and apparently, from what I also heard from some people, that apparently she was never invited to editorial conferences. So anytime any of her books, anytime she would, so basically her character, she specifically created for Marvel Comics, Miss Marvel, aka Kamala Khan, she would not be involved at all, despite the fact she did create the character. Now, surprisingly enough, Kamala Khan does not appear in this book. Nope. Now, basically, they bring it. Now, the first person Singularity runs to is, of course, Carol Danvers. Oh, yeah, my friend. And then she runs to She-Hulk, runs to Medusa, Nico, and, of course, last being Dazzler. Now, the thing with Dazzler is, her look is actually from the Uncanny X-Men run by Michael Bendis. As a matter of fact, there's a reference in here of the reason why she is the way she is, because of what Mystique did to her during that run. And the villain of the storyline is known as Antimatter, and they call her Blue, but technically her name is Singularity. And she brings them together to take on, of course, Antimatter, and they basically, it's sort of, even though you might think of it as a makeshift team, but they work really well together. At first, when she meets up with Medusa, Medusa slaps cups on her because she wrecked the communications tower. And she always is like, it's New York, stuff like this happens all the frickin' time. And since she's a lawyer, she can easily wiggle her way out of this. Yep. And there's even a funny line here, it's like, clothes are completely unnecessary. Clothes are so overrated, and she always like, I mostly agree. I'm not sure who wrote that. I don't know if it was Kelly Thompson or it was G. Willow Wilson, but that was funny. Really funny. And this storyline is just so good. And of course, Antimatter is defeated, but Singularity is able to survive, and she will stay on board. This book contains mostly the first 4 issues of the second volume for A-Force, plus the short story that basically led to the short-lived series of Avengers Volume 6, Number 0, and they also include a couple other bonus books in here. They include technically Marvel's first female superhero team, the Lady Liberators, which also was the first appearance of Valkyrie in the comic books. Yep, though this Valkyrie was not the Valkyrie, but actually the Enchantress. Now, this book was not done by Stan Lee. When people think of the Avengers book, people think of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Though, by the time this issue came out, Lee and Kirby had long left the book. Lee left the book after issue 38. Kirby left after issue 16. And with 39 forward, up until around issue, I think it was like 106, I think it was, Roy Thomas had been the writer of the book. So technically, this group is a Roy Thomas creation. This group does involve, like, one of the members of A-Force. Which member of the group, mind you? Well, is Medusa. Yeah, Medusa is the only person part of this group and A-Force. We also have the Black Widow, the Scarlet Witch, the Wasp, and you think this is Valkyrie. Nope, it's not Valkyrie. It's actually the Enchantress. And this group mainly was brought together just to be part of the women's liberation stuff that was going on back in the 70s. And I am, let's just say, I'm not going to basically yell at basically this particular thing. Now, this was something basically big in the 70s. It was a feminist movement, but not the way we think of feminists today. There are some feminists that are very extreme and very, let's just say, have their opinions about stuff that are completely stupid. Yep, and what did this group do? They took on the Lethal Legion. Yep, and they won. Yep. They also briefly tried to take out the main Avengers team. Now, the other book they included here is the first appearance of A-Force from A-Force, the First Line for Secret Wars, which is fine. It kind of basically details the first appearance of Singularity in case you missed the original miniseries. They threw that in here. Despite the fact this book came out after Volume 0, so I have to ask, why in the world they include in here for? Now, Avengers 83, that's fine. I have no problem with that being included in here. But the first line for A-Force, that was completely unnecessary. Yeah, the first issue of the first line is completely unnecessary. But this is a good start for the series. This book, roughly a 9.5 out of 10. It's a damn good book. Alright, next up it is the final volume for Old Man Logan. Volume 10. End of the World. Once again, we actually have multiple story arcs in here. Yeah, unlike the first story arc, this is something interesting about Ed Bronson's run for the book, is that unlike, let's say, Jeff Lemire, who had each book basically do one story arc, this one's got technically two. You have Northern Flight and King of Nothing. The annual was basically all in here too. This book contains issues 46, 50, and this technically is the end of the Old Man Logan ongoing series, though we had Dem and Logan come right afterwards. The first story deals with Logan did with the UFO. It's a strange two-parter. Not much to talk about here, but basically the main gist to talk about here is the... Okay. Okay, looks like I'm going to have to do a two-parter because supper is ready. So, in part 2, I will discuss this. Okay? But see you there. Bye.